Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on managing Outlook email. This webinar is being presented by Deborah Ashby, and in today's webinar you're going to learn how to manage Outlook email. This webinar will last around 1 hour. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the question box and we will go through the questions at the end of the webinar. I'm now going to hand over to Deborah.
Good afternoon everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. As Aman said, my name is Deborah Ashby and I will be running the webinar for you this afternoon. So I'll just do a very brief introduction on myself. I'm the in-house IT trainer, so what that basically means is that I look after all of the Microsoft training that we do. So I run training sessions on Microsoft and also write a lot of content for Microsoft as well. So hopefully that qualifies me to sit in front of you and run this webinar today. As we mentioned, today's webinar is on managing your Outlook email, and I think it's probably important to say right at the beginning that email it's the application that we use most often. So the majority of our time during the day is spent dealing with emails or in Outlook managing our emails. And it's really important that you adhere to some guidelines and also learn how to use Outlook in the correct way, because there's lots of tools available to you in Outlook which can help you manage your emails more effectively. And that's what we aim to do in this webinar today, is just to provide you with some tools, some information. Some of this stuff I'm going to show you, you may be familiar with already. Hopefully you'll leave today having learned at least one new tip which you think you can apply just to make yourself a little bit more productive when it comes to managing your email, because I think we can all agree we all get so much email it can become a little bit overwhelming. All right, I do have a very basic agenda, so we've just got some agenda items up there. I'll briefly read through them before we start jumping into the content. So I'm going to start by running through just some general guidelines for managing your email inbox. So some of these are quite difficult to get used to. I'm sure I'll go into it a little bit more when we get to that point in a moment. Some of them might be a little bit or might seem a little bit difficult to adhere to first of all, but I think if you do, then you'll find that it becomes a lot easier to manage all of the emails that you're receiving. We're then going to jump in, and we're going to jump into Outlook, and we're going to take a look at different ways or different things that you can do which will help you manage your emails more effectively. And the first thing I want to take a look at is just setting up your email view, which is how you're looking at your email. So things like looking at the reading pane and some other options that we have on the view ribbon, grouping by conversation, and customizing your folder views. We'll then move into more managing your emails efficiently, so taking a look at flags, categories and rules, and also using quick steps, which might be something which you're familiar with, it might not. Ignore and conversation cleanup. These are two things. I always find it quite funny that these two things have been in Outlook for years and years and years. There's nothing new about ignore and conversation cleanup, but very few people use them and very few people understand what they are and what the difference is between the two. So again, two tools which can be really useful to you. We'll take a look at conditional formatting, and what I mean by that is things like making emails from certain people a different color in your inbox so that they stand out, how you apply that, and also something called action items, which again may or may not be something which you've used previously. We're then going to take a little look at folder management, so grouping emails using folders and subfolders, and also just taking a look at our junk email filter options. We're going to take a look at working with clutter as well. Now clutter is something that was new. I think it was new for 2013, Outlook 2013. It's actually available only in the online version. So we're going to briefly jump into the online version of Outlook so you can see how you use clutter to manage your emails as well, for those of you that do use your emails online. We're going to take a look at searching. It always surprises me how people are misusing the search feature in Outlook. I've seen all kinds of crazy searches over the years of people trying to find certain emails and the things that they're typing in. So I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on how to use that search facility properly. And you'll find that once you learn how to use it properly, that you'll probably find it a lot easier finding your emails. So we're going to take a look at searching and refining your results, using search folders and also recent searches as well. And then finally at the end, I've just thrown in some things relating to email options. So read receipts, delaying the delivery of emails, redirecting replies, and also how you use automatic replies. Automatic replies is the new name for out of office. Okay, so those are the things that we're going to cover today. Hopefully, as I said, you will pick up something new. I'm going to move through at a reasonable pace. I know that some of you may possibly be writing notes. If I do go a little bit too quick for you, just please bear in mind that this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to you after the session. So if you do miss something that I'm saying, then you can go back and review it in your own time. Wonderful. All right, so let's start out by just taking a look at some of the guidelines for efficient mailbox management. And this one is so difficult, even for me, and that is to only check your email at certain times during the day. When we look at our emails, we tend to be very reactive in the way that we deal with emails. So I know that when I'm working away, I might be in a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet. As soon as I see that notification pop up in the corner that I have a new email, I basically leave whatever I'm doing, jump to my email, and start to read that email, which isn't the most productive way of handling your emails because you're constantly switching backwards and forwards, particularly if you've got something really important that you're working on or a deadline. You want to make sure that you're dedicating your time fully to that and then dealing with emails a bit later. So one of the things is to check your emails only at certain times during the day. So that might be once when you come into the office in the morning, and then don't check it again until maybe lunchtime, and then maybe check it for a third and final time at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon before you leave, and action everything you need to action at those times only. You'll find it makes you a lot more productive in other things that you're doing because you're not jumping backwards and forwards between your email and whatever it is that you're working on. And I'm going to show you something in a moment that can really, really help with that. It enables you to keep your Outlook completely closed, but still, if you need to, send a quick email or check your or add something to your calendar. So I'm going to show you, that's the first thing that I'm going to show you in a moment. So only checking your emails at certain points of the day is the first tip. Quite difficult to get used to, but I think you'll find it quite helpful. The second one is to employ the 2-minute rule. So when you are checking your emails, we have this kind of thing called the 2-minute rule. So if it's something you can deal with within 2 minutes or something very quick, so maybe somebody just needs a very quick reply, or maybe it's just something that you can just deal with very, very quickly, then deal with it then and there. If it's something that's going to be a little bit more time consuming, then leave it to those 3 periods during the day and deal with it then. Okay, so the 2-minute rule. Another good way to manage your emails is to set up folders for any projects that you're working on. Now, I'm sure that most people who use Outlook will have lots of folders underneath their inbox. Some people have way too many folders underneath their inbox, but we would always recommend that you set up folders, particularly if you're working on different projects. Make sure you have folders, the names of those projects, and keep those organized. You might have subfolders within those as well, just so you can keep everything together and make things easy to find. So setting up folders for all of your projects is also a good way to manage your email. And this is another good one, so rerouting any non-essential email to another inbox. And this can be done using something like a rule or a quick tip, which we're going to, sorry, a quick step, not a quick tip, which we're going to go through in a moment. So anything that's maybe non-essential, so something which might be non-essential would be, I'm subscribed to a whole heap of Microsoft newsletters and promotional emails. So I don't necessarily need to read them. They're not essential to my work that I'm doing on a daily basis, but I might want to look at them maybe over my lunch break or when I'm having, when I've got 10 minutes free. So instead of having all of those coming directly into my inbox, I might choose to reroute them immediately to a folder that I've got set up. So I've still got them, but they're out the way and I'm not having to deal with them. Okay, so that's another way that you can kind of help yourself when it comes to managing your emails. Another one I want to add in, and I just thought of this after I'd done these slides, there's no slide for this, and this is something which people tend to do quite a lot as well, and that is make sure that you keep one topic per email string. And what I mean by that is, for example, and again, I'm very guilty of doing this, if I'm having a conversation with somebody in the office about a project, so the email starts out, it's got the subject Project Alpha, and we're talking about that project backwards and forwards, and then it starts to move into a conversation about something completely different, so maybe a different project or a meeting or something along those lines. What we would always suggest is if the conversation starts to change to talk about something else, that you create a new email string with a new subject line which relates to that new discussion. Now that probably seems like a little bit of a pain as you're already in that conversation, but it's going to help you so much when it comes to searching and things like that, because if you imagine you've got an email that's called Project Alpha, but there's a lot of information in there about Project Delta, you're not going to know that that's in there when you're searching. Okay, so it's always good, or be mindful of, if the subject's changing, create a new email string so that it relates to that particular subject. Okay, I thought that was quite a good one to add into the end, but I didn't have a slide for that one because I only just thought of it before we started this webinar. So those are just some general guidelines, which are best practice guidelines, shall we say, for managing your email. Let's jump now into Outlook and start taking a look at some of the practicalities of that and discuss some of those tools which we were just talking about. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. As I said, you may know some of these things that I'm going to show you, or you may not. Now, I'm using Outlook 2016. The things I'm going to show you are pretty much relevant for 2016 and Outlook 2013 as well, and most things are going to be relevant for Outlook 2010. Okay, so and just so you know, what I've got set up over here, if you look across in the left-hand side, I've got two accounts attached here. So this is my Hotmail account, which is essentially an Outlook account as well, and then I have the test one that I'm using for training today, which is Katie Jordan 1970 at outlook.com. So this is one that I use for training, and we're going to be using these emails that you can see there in her inbox. The first thing I'd like to start with is just the general setup of your Outlook and the general view that we have. And for that, I'm going to switch across to the View ribbon in Outlook, like so. So this is where you'll find all of the options when it comes to customizing how you're viewing your Outlook emails. Okay. Now I think most of us probably have, or we've probably had the same view, the same way of viewing our Outlook emails for years. And if you're happy with that, that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying you have to change your view just for the sake of it, but for those of you who don't realize it, you can change the way that you're looking, not only at the way that your emails are displaying, but also what you've got displayed in these side panes down here as well. So let's talk about all of that. Let's first of all take a look at the general layout. So you'll see here, if you cast your eyes towards the right hand side, we have a layout group where we have the commands folder pane, reading pane, and to-do bar. Now reading pane is probably one that you know which is most common, so I'm just going to move mine here. The reading pane is this thing just here. So I like to have a reading pane, and I like to have it on the right hand side of my email. So when I'm clicked on an email, I can see that viewed in there. Some people who do like to have their reading pane displayed, and as I said, if we click the reading pane drop down here, you can have it on the right or you can have it across the bottom. That's really personal preference. Some people like to turn it off completely, like so, and they like to double click in order to open that email so they can have that email in a full window view. It really is personal preference, completely up to you. I'm going to switch my reading pane back on. And you'll see also in that reading pane drop down you have a little area for options. So this is for customizing your reading pane. So some people like it that even when they do have a reading pane, when they click on that email and view it in the reading pane, when they click off that email, that it still shows as being unread. So this is where you can control that. So if you're someone who likes to have it still as unread even when you've just viewed it in here, and only mark it as read when you've double clicked to open it, then this is the option that you want. So mark items as read when viewed in the reading pane. Okay, if you've got that turned off, then even if you just click once to read the email in the reading pane, it's still going to show as an unread, so it will be basically in bold over here. Okay, so those options are in there. You can also access that through File and Options, and within your mail area just here. So you've got Outlook panes and you have that reading pane option in there as well. So either way you can go in there and customize that. So that's quite nice and simple. So reading pane, would recommend that you have a look at those options. Your folder pane. Now, folder pane relates to, again, your list of folders which you can currently see on the left-hand side. So you might think, well, I like having my folders there. I want to be able to see them. And again, that's absolutely fine. However, you do have the option of viewing them in normal view, which is what I've currently got selected. You can minimize those folders, which gives you a little bit more screen real estate, as we call it. So you can see things a little bit better without having those folders down the side. Or you can turn them off completely, like so. I can't tell you how many calls I used to get when I used to work on an IT help desk. People would call up saying that in a panic, all my folders have disappeared, and it was always because they'd accidentally, normally not realizing it, that they accidentally turned that folder pane off. So if that happens to you, it's always good to go in and check to make sure that you've got that back on normal. Okay, so if you do need a bit more screen space, then you can turn off that folder pane as well. And another one that we have is the to-do bar, and again, this is something which in general people don't know too much about. I actually quite like this option. When you click on to-do, you can choose to have certain things also showing in a pane while you're in your Outlook email. So a good one is calendar, and it just means that you can see a little preview of your calendar and also any meetings that you have coming up listed below. So it means you don't have to keep switching backwards and forwards between your email and your calendar. I know sometimes when I'm working in Outlook and I create a new email, maybe to a colleague, and I want to arrange a meeting, I like to be able to have a calendar within easy access, and I like to be able to see also the meetings that I've got coming up for that day. You can see here now, because I've got that to-do pane open and also a reading pane and my folder view, things start to get a little bit condensed. So, you know, if you do like to have that to-do pane on, it might be worth rethinking kind of how you want your layout set. So I might choose to have my reading pane down the bottom, which makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, so do have a little review of those layout options and just set those up as you like to have them. So I'm just going to turn off the reading pane there and put it on the right. Perfect. Okay, so that is the layout options. A couple of other things when it comes to organizing your email. There is something in here called Show as Conversation. Sorry, I can just see someone's got volume. There's a volume switch on my... Okay, it's gone away again, sorry. Something funny just came up on my screen. Okay, let's go back to our view menu. So the next option I want to show you is the Show as Conversations option. So in your messages group just here, you'll see the top option is Show as Conversations. And again, this is really down to personal preference. This Show as Conversations, it's very similar, and I don't know if any of you use Gmail or something like that. For those of you that do use Gmail, the way that Gmail works is it does group together emails by conversation or in conversation, so that you only see the most recent email within that conversation, and then all of the other emails are collapsed underneath it. Okay, so again, it's a way of reducing clutter or lots and lots of emails in your inbox by only showing you the most recent. Okay, so what I could do, and I'm just going to click back on Katie Jordan's inbox just here, and I'm just going to expand that ever so slightly like so. I'm going to apply this Show as Conversation to Katie Jordan's inbox so you can see how that works. So I'm going to click Show as Conversation. It's going to say Show Messages Arranged by Conversation. It's going to ask me if I want to apply this to all mailboxes or just this folder, which is just my inbox. So I'm going to do this folder. And I probably haven't got many in here because these are all test emails, but I do have one, and I can tell that it's worked because if you look next to this email here from Mathilde, I now have this little arrow next to it. And this little arrow will appear next to any email which has been grouped as a conversation. And when I click on that arrow, it's going to show me the rest of those emails. So the emails are still there, but it just enables me to kind of keep them out the way unless I need to go back and review, instead of having all of those just sitting there in my email inbox. So it's a good way of cutting down the amount of email that you're seeing. Some people love that option. Other people absolutely hate it. Now, My personal preference is not to group them by conversation, but that might be something that you do want to do. So I'm going to turn off that option like so. Okay, so bear that in mind as well when you're thinking about your emails. And finally, with regards to the layout and how you're viewing your emails, we need to talk about the column headings that you're viewing in your email list. So you can see here we have all these different column headings, so from, subject, received, size, category, and some smaller ones here as well, which you can see when you hover over. So I have attachment, icon, reminder, and also importance as well. So all of these are fields in my view, and I can customize the fields that I'm seeing. So by default, these are kind of the standard ones that you would get. I think categories is one that I've added, but apart from that, by default, those will be the standard. You can go in and change those. Okay, and you can do that through your change view options over here. There are a couple of ways that you can do it, and it really depends if you want that change to be permanent or not. So if I just want it to be temporary, so maybe I just am interested in certain things in my email list, I could remove certain things like the size just by clicking and dragging it over like so to remove that category. If I want to add another column heading in, I can right click on the top there and do field chooser. And it will then give me a list of all of the fields which I could possibly add to my Outlook view. So it's sorted into groups. So I have my frequently used fields up here, but I do have other options. If I want to see absolutely all of the mail fields that are available, I can select all mail fields. And I could, if I wanted to see if anyone was CC'd, I could drag that up and just place it on the bar up there as well if I wanted to. Let me do that again. I think I might already have it in here in my view. That's why it's not adding. But you can drag and drop these just as simply as you can drag and drop them off to get rid of them. Okay, so you can customize them that way. Or you can go into this change view area over here. So if you click on change view and manage views, this will show you 3 views that you have already set up by default in Outlook, so compact, single, and preview. And I currently have compact view, which again is the default applied to my emails. Whilst I've got compact view highlighted in here, I can see below in the description what that's actually showing me. So it's saying in this view, when you have this view applied to your email list, this is what you're going to see. So you're going to see these fields: importance, reminder, icon, attachment, from, subject, received. And if we look across the top, that's exactly what I'm seeing up there. It's saying it's going to group by whatever the arrangement label is. So the arrangement is in this group here. So we have this big group that says arrangement, and I have date highlighted. So it's ordering my emails by date, and I can see the sort that that's applying is received, so descending. So date received in descending order. So that is how it's arranging my emails. If I want to change that and have a completely different view, I can. And I can just create myself a new view by clicking on new just there. I can give my view a name, so I am Katie Jordan, so I'm going to just call it Katie, and I'm going to click OK. And I can then go in and start customizing how I want that view to look. So I'm going to add in the columns that I want. So again here, these are the default ones on the right-hand side, so importance, reminder, icon, so on and so forth. And then in the left-hand side, I have a list of all the fields that I can add. So again, I could switch to all mail fields if I wanted to. I'm going to go to, because there's so many of them, I'm going to go to frequently used fields. And I can then go in and start removing. So maybe I want to remove reminder by clicking on remove. Maybe I'm not interested in icon either. Maybe I don't really care about the size of the email, so I can remove that. But maybe I want to add in some of these in here, like CC. I can add that in. When it was created, I might want to add that. So you can just tailor it to how you want it to be. And I'm going to click on OK. I could go in and say how I wanted it grouped, so group items by descending, ascending order, anything along those lines. So I'm going to group it by, let's see, due date in ascending. Okay, so go through and customize all of your settings for your view, and then you can choose to apply that view to your inbox if you want. like it's done there, and we got the new view applied like so. So once you've set that up, that view is going to be available all the time, so you can then apply that to whatever folder you want. Okay, I'm just going to go back in because that view is not great, but I'm going to just go back and apply compact view like so, just to put things back. Okay, so you might want to set up lots of different views depending on what folder it is that you're looking at, or if you manage lots of email inboxes, different views for those as well. So those are good to have a play around with also. Lovely. All right, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to talking about flags and categories in your email. Now, again, we're probably all used to using things like flags. So next to your emails, in the little column, as long as you've got that column displayed, which by default you will have, you've got a little flag icon just here. Now what most people don't realize is that this helps you create to-do lists in Outlook. So this little flag for follow-up, if I just click it, that's going to give me the default flag, and the default flag is always for follow-up today. If I right-click on that flag, I can then see a list of all the different flag options that I have. So I need to follow up today, tomorrow, this week, next week. I've got a custom option, so I can type in a date that this item needs to be actioned by. So all of these, when you flag something, it's going to add it to your tasks list in Outlook, which is essentially a to-do list. And I love to use this option because I get so many emails and things come in and I think, okay, that's something I need to action. The first thing I do is I will assign a flag to it. So then I can switch across to my tasks, and tasks I can switch to from down here. So where you have your email, your calendar, your contacts, you also have tasks just like so. Okay, so when I have my Katie Jordan in here, oh, let me flick back. There we go. So you can see all of my tasks in here. So this is for all of my inboxes currently. So it's showing it both for my inbox here and also for Katie Jordan as well. Okay, so you can see all of your flagged items listed in here like a big long to-do list, and once you're in there you can then do things like mark them as complete, and it really just helps you prioritize things that still need to be actioned. So those are your flags which you have access to in your Outlook. You can also combine those with categories, and categories, if you look up on the home ribbon, and in the tags group, we have a categorize option. It's next to the follow-up. So you can also select follow-up from up here as well. You don't have to right-click on the specific item. You can choose to assign categories to emails, and this is really useful for things like searching as well. So what I have set up in mine is I have different categories for different projects that I'm working on or different tasks. So by default, this is what you'll see when you click on categories. You'll have blue, green, orange, purple, just generic standard categories. You want to make these a little bit more meaningful. So to do that, to change these category labels, click on all categories. And you can then go in and start to rename these or add new ones if you want to. So I'm going to go in and rename this blue category to a project that I'm working on, which is Project Alpha. And hit enter. And I'm going to rename the green category to another project I'm working on, which is Project Delta. And then I might have the orange category for meetings. Oh, sorry, I don't want to add a new one. I want to rename. So on and so forth. You get the idea. You can go through, rename, or you can add new ones. Once you've customized them, I'm then going to click on OK, you can then use those and assign those to different emails. So for example, just here, this email from Matilde, which says meeting, I'm going to immediately go in and categorize that in the meetings category. And if you have the categories column listed in here, it's going to show you that in your email list. I like to have my categories. I use these a lot. If I just very quickly show you one of my inboxes just here, you can see here I use my categories quite a lot. So you can add more than one against an email as well. So let's jump back to Katie Jordan. So maybe this meeting is related to Project Alpha, so I might want to categorize it as a meeting, but also as related to Project Alpha, I can do that as well. And you can see that we have them both in there. You'll see a bit later on when we come to searching, you can then search specifically by category. So it's a great way if you've got a lot of emails related to a specific project which are marked by category and you very quickly want to see all of them, you can just search by the category and it will pull up all of those emails. So categories are a great way of organizing your emails as well. So if you've never used those, they're good to have a little play around with too. Lovely. All right. Let's move on to talking a little bit about rules. If you remember at the start, I did briefly mention rules and how you can use those or apply those to your mailbox. Some people get a little bit scared of rules, that it's going to start directing their emails into folders and places where they don't know where it's disappeared to. But if you've got your folders set up correctly and you're applying intelligent rules, then you should be fine. They are a real help. Particularly when it comes to redirecting email and cutting down the amount of emails that you're actually having to manage. So let's take a look at some basic ones and how you create new rules. Now again, as with everything in Microsoft, there's numerous different ways to get to your rules. So you could go through, and this isn't the way I would normally do it, but you could go through File and you have a Manage Rules and Alerts option in the Info section. I don't normally do it like that. I prefer to work from the ribbon, so I'm going to click the arrow to go back. And I'm going to work on the Home ribbon, and in this Move section I have an option for rules just here. So I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to go to Create Rule. So let's create a new rule. So Outlook's quite intelligent in the way that because I'm clicked on this email from Mathilde, it's kind of brought up options here or suggestions as to what rule I might want to create. So it's saying when I get an email with all of the selected conditions and it says from Mathilde, and it's because that's the email I currently have selected. If I'd had the email from Adam selected, it would say from Adam Lacey over here. Okay. Now that's quite useful, but if I want a more generic or general rule, I might choose not to use this and go directly to advanced options, which gives me full control over my rules. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to set up a rule that says move all email from Mathilde that contains the word meeting to the meetings folder in my inbox, which means it's going to direct everything with that criteria directly to that folder, and it means I don't have to deal with it. It's just there. I can go and review it. I haven't had to look at it or move it myself. Outlook's done it for me. Okay, so when you're setting up a rule, it will take you through a rules wizard. So you have to select your conditions first of all. So what is it I want it to do? So my first condition, I wanted to check that the email is from Mathilde, so I'm going to select the top one, with the subject of meeting, like so. Okay, and there's lots of different things you can have in here, so specific words, all different kinds of ways that you can customize it. I could go down here and I could change who it's from if I wanted to and change it to somebody else just by clicking on that link, or I could change what's in the subject line. So maybe I don't want it to say RE meeting, maybe I just want it to say meeting or something along those lines. Okay, like so. Okay, so RE meeting or meeting will pick up both of them. I'm then going to click on next, and then it's saying, well, what do you want it to do? So do you want it to move it to a folder? Do you want it to delete it? What do you want it to do? So in this case, when I get an email from Mathilde with the subject of RE meeting or meeting, I want the rule to automatically move it to the meeting subfolder of my inbox. So I'm now going to select that condition. So I'm going to look through this list here, and it says move a copy to the specified folder. So that will move a copy, which means it will leave it in my inbox and put a copy in there. Okay, so it really depends what you want it to do. So I'm going to say let's just move it to a specified folder instead, which is the top option. So I'm going to click specified, and it will then allow me to select the folder I want to move it to, so meetings, and click on OK. I could click next. There's some more things I could add in if I wanted to, but that's pretty much what I want this rule to do, so I'm going to click on finish. Okay, so now whenever I receive a new email from Mathilde with that subject, it's going to move it directly to this meetings folder. Okay, as you can see in there are lots of different ways that you can customize those rules. So go in, have a little look, and you can have multiple rules set up on your inbox. So I'm sure you can probably start to see how you can use these to maybe handle non-essential email, as we said at the start. So maybe if you do have things like newsletters or promotional events that come through, you don't want to delete them, but maybe you want to redirect them to maybe a folder like this, promotional, something like that. So set up those rules so that Outlook does all the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so that is kind of a very rough guide to rules in your Outlook. Incidentally, if you do have a number of different rules set up and you want to go in and make changes or edit those rules, you can go back to Rules and also go to Manage Rules and Alerts, and that will take you into all of the rules that you have set up, and you can edit them from there if I select the correct inbox. Okay, so there's the rule that I just set up just here, and I could go in and I could edit that rule if I wanted to by changing these options. Okay, you can also delete your rules from there as well. Lovely. So that's rules. So another really useful thing for you. Another thing that's kind of along the same lines is something called quick steps. And again, this is a functionality that's been around since I think Outlook 2010, which is maybe not something which people use quite as much, but I really like it. And again, it's located on the home ribbon. Right in the middle here, you have your little quick steps box just here. If I just click the little down arrow so you can see what a quick step is, it basically does something for you a lot quicker than you can do it. So for example, or the example I always like to use, and you do have some default ones up here, is I send a lot of emails to the people in my particular team. So there's 5 or 6 people in my team, and every time I create a new email, I don't want to have to go in, create the new email, and type their names into the toolbox every single time I'm sending to that particular group. Now you might have distribution groups set up for that kind of thing, but you can also create your own. So, you know, it might be all different kinds of people. Maybe you have a group of maybe your friends in the office and you want to create an email or a quick step just for emails to those particular friends. You can do all those different kinds of things using quick steps. So for example, here by default, they've given you a few which people might like to use. So one here, team email. Now I'm going to customize this, so I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to do edit team email. I might want to rename this, so I might want to say content team. And when I click on this button up here, I wanted to create a new email message to, and then I can select those people. So I'm just going to go to Katie Jordan's contacts. Poor Katie only has 2 contacts. I'm going to select them both and add them in and do OK. Okay, I could go through and start adding actions. Maybe I wanted to create an email, maybe I wanted to mark it as high importance. I can do things like that as well by stacking actions on top of actions as we go through. I'm going to keep it quite nice and simple at this stage and just have that in there, and I'm going to click Save. Okay, and what you can now see is up in the quick steps, it's now changed to content team. So if I want to send an email, I now just click on content team and it automatically adds those people in. And there's so many ways that you can customize that. It's a really nice way of having things that you do all the time listed in simple little quick steps. And you don't have to just stick to the ones that are there. You can create new ones yourself. So you can call them whatever you like and you can choose whatever action you want that's available in the drop down. Okay, so quick steps are another thing to consider when you're looking at how you can manage your email most effectively. Take some time just to take a look and have a little think as to which ones would be most productive for you. Wonderful. Now I mentioned at the start as well, there are 2 features in Outlook, and again they're located on this home ribbon, which people have been there forever, but people are very confused about, or they're a little bit scared to use them, and I understand completely why that might be. And I'm talking about, first of all, the ignore option. It sounds so harsh. I'm going to ignore that person completely. It does sound a little bit harsh, but let's just talk through so I can explain to you exactly what it's doing and how that can be quite helpful to you. So again, on the home ribbon, we're looking in this little delete group. You have this option up here, ignore. And when you hover your mouse over it, you get that little tooltip pop up. So it says move current and future messages in the selected conversation to the deleted items folder. Okay. You might think, well, why on earth would I want to do that? An example I would give would be And again, I'm sure we've all been there. We're sitting there minding our own business and we somehow get caught up in an email string, maybe a reply all to everybody in a group. Maybe it's a joke that's circulating around or something like that, but you're just there and you want to concentrate on your work and you want to be taken out. So instead of emailing the person who sent it and saying, please can you remove me from the reply all, you can just choose to ignore any further messages that are coming in on that particular subject. And Outlook's very clever in the way that it does this. So it knows which email string you want to ignore and it doesn't stop anything else from coming through. So I might choose to say, let's have a look. Okay, I might choose to ignore this conversation from Kata, so I can select her email and I can click ignore. And it says the selected conversation, all future messages will be moved to the deleted items folder. So I can do ignore conversation. You can see it's removed it from there. And then any further replies to that conversation, I'm not going to be included. I don't see them. They go straight to the deleted items folder. Okay, and you can see there is the conversation. So if I do have to go back and review, I can. It's not deleted it completely. It's in my deleted items. Okay, so the ignore feature can be quite useful in those kinds of instances. The other option which people aren't quite sure of is underneath that, which is the cleanup option. And you have a couple of options in here, so cleanup conversation, cleanup folder, and cleanup folder and subfolders as well. Now the cleanup conversation option differs very slightly from the ignore option. What this will do is it will cut down your emails greatly. So again, for example, say somebody has sent out an email to 10 recipients and you're one of them. And then the email goes backwards and forwards and some people reply to certain parts of the email and then other people jump in. So you end up with, 20 emails in your email list, all with different replies and people replying to different parts of the email. What cleanup will do is it will scan that entire conversation and it will remove, or move to deleted items I should say, or whatever folder you've specified, any emails that are superfluous, shall we say. So you'll only be left with the 1 or 2 emails that contain the latest conversation, the entire conversation that has all the replies, and you don't have all of the kind of the little replies which have come in at the side. Okay, so it can greatly reduce your email inbox. And a lot of people I know who do utilize this feature find it particularly useful for when they've been away on holiday. So we've been away on a lovely holiday, maybe a couple of weeks, and we all know what it's like. We come back in the morning on the Monday, we've got 500 emails in our inbox, a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a challenge to go through. What we could do is we could say clean up folder, apply that to the inbox, and it will go through and it will remove any superfluous emails. So again, it will just leave you with the latest email that contains the entire conversation thread, shall we say. And it moves them to, by default it will be deleted items, but you can choose to move it to a different folder if you wanted to. So maybe you have a subfolder set up for cleanup or something along those lines. And to customize those options, again, you can do that through File and Options and through Mail. And if we scroll down, we've got Conversation Cleanup, and it says cleaned up items will go to this folder, and you can go in and you can select what folder you want those parts of the cleaned up conversation to be moved to. So again, it's just a way of making it easier for you to manage lots and lots of emails. Okay, so that might be an option that you might want to take a look at as well. A couple of other things in this section of managing emails efficiently. Conditional formatting. Again, a very popular tool which people use in order to make certain emails stand out from the crowd, shall we say. So my email looks quite dull at the moment. I've just got all of my emails look pretty uniform, pretty much the same. Now, I can see an email in there from my manager, Chris Littlewood. Now, his emails are always very important, so I want to make sure that they stand out when they come in because I want them to show in a different color in my email list. So what I can do is I can choose to apply conditional formatting to change the color of my emails as they come in. And again, I do that through the View ribbon. And you'll find your conditional formatting option underneath View Settings, which you would never know it's underneath there unless somebody told you. It's not particularly meaningful. So View Settings and then Conditional Formatting just here. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new conditional format. So I'm going to click on the Add button because I want to create a new one. And you can see automatically it asks me to specify a name. So because I want all emails from Chris to stand out, I'm just going to call this one Chris. I can then go in and select how I want those emails to appear by clicking on Font. And I'm going to make them really stand out by giving it a hideous font. I apologize. So we're going to do this horrible show card Gothic, and I'm going to make them all fuchsia. And I could choose any other options in there if I wanted to. And I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on Condition. So this is where I specify that I want all emails from Chris. So I'm just going to switch to Katie Jordan's contacts again, and we're going to select Chris, like so. And I'm going to do OK, and OK, and OK again. And you'll see now it's turned Chris's email into that hideous pink with Gothic font. I would not recommend that font, particularly for your emails. I'm sure you can choose a much nicer one than that. But now going forward, every email that Chris sends me will stand out in that particular font. And you could do that for multiple people, have different colors for different people or groups of people, however you want to do it. So again, there's lots of different things that you can do with conditional formatting, not just related to the person's name. There's lots of different options. So if you've never taken a look at that, again, that is worth having a little look at within those view settings. Another thing that you might not be familiar with, and we're going to use this email from Chris again, so I'm just going to click on Chris, and it's something called action items. Now, action items was new for, again, I think it was it was definitely 2013, and action items very much depend on the settings that your system administrator has set up. So some organizations have action items enabled, other organizations don't. And what an action item is, it's basically a clever little add-in that runs in Outlook, and I think it is turned on by default, but some, as I said, some organizations choose to turn it off for whatever reason. But it can really help you, and I have an example of it here. Now, as I said, it's a clever little add-in which runs in your Outlook inbox, and it basically reads the content of every email that comes in. So for example, this email that's come in from Chris, so he's basically said, are you around later? Now what Outlook has done is it's picked up that he suggested that we may possibly want to meet, and now it's given me this little suggested meetings just here. So if you receive an email, so maybe somebody's put some kind of date in there, are you around on Saturday, or they've put can you make a meeting on the 7th of July or whatever it is, Outlook will pick that up, and then it will give you this little drop down. And this is an action item. It says, we think we found an event. And there isn't really much detail in this, but if he had included something like a time or a date, it would give you the option to add it directly into your Outlook calendar from here. So it just saves you from switching to your calendar and adding that in. Now there's lots of different kinds of action items, not just suggested meetings. Unfortunately that's the only one I have to show you in my test emails just here, but you might see other things, so it's worth looking out for them above here, such as it might say Bing Maps. So again, if you've received an email that contains some kind of address, like we're going to meet at Building A, 23 Scrutton Street, whatever it might be, if you click on Bing Maps, it's going to pick up the location in the email and show you where that's located on a map. So again, it just means that you can handle everything you need to within the application. You're not having to jump across into a different map application to find where that building is. Okay, so lots of little things like that. Other things you might see would be in action items would be the ability to add something directly into your task list or your to-do list. So if it picks up something like if someone sent you an email that says, please review this document, Outlook will pick that up as an action item. It's something you need to do, and it will give you the option up here to automatically add it into your task list as a to-do item. Okay, so action items are there to help you and just make you a little bit more efficient when dealing with your emails as they come in. Okay, so good to check out for those. All right, moving on to a couple of other things. We've got about 10 minutes left, so we should finish dead on time, which is excellent. I normally run over because I tend to ramble quite a lot when I start to get into our webinars, but I think we're going to finish dead on time today, so that's good. A couple of other things. Again, grouping emails by folder. This isn't rocket science. I'm pretty sure you're probably all doing this already, but if you just glance your eyes over to the left-hand side of the screen, inbox, and then I have a whole list of subfolders underneath here, and I can create folders within folders if I want to by right-clicking and doing new folder. I love folders. You know, it's just a great way of managing your emails. I doubt any of you, although I have seen some people who don't bother with folders, they just have everything in their inbox. I would recommend using subfolders where you can, just because it makes your life a little bit easier, makes it easier to find things in your inbox. Another option that you might want to review is your junk email filter options. So if I click on junk email, there's nothing in here for Katie Jordan, again, because it's just a fairly new account that we've set up. But if I go to my actual email, so a different mailbox up here, and go to junk, I'm sure I've got, yes, loads and loads of things in my junk email. So automatically, Outlook is picking up all of these things as junk, and as I have a quick glance through, I can see that most of those things are junk. They appear to be things I've signed up to on websites and various different items in there. So it's correctly picked up that those are junk. Now, if you do want to go in and review your junk email settings, or maybe when you're looking in your junk email folder, you're seeing things in there which aren't junk, you can right-click and go to junk and do not junk in there, which will then remove it and put it back into where it came from. But your junk email settings, if we go to the home ribbon, you've got that just here. So you can go to junk and you can go to junk email options just there. So this is where you can specify kind of what level of junk email protection that you want. So I've set mine to low, so it's going to move the most obvious items to junk email, but it is going to let through some other items as well. So again, if you find you're receiving a lot of rubbish into your email inbox, you might want to go in and review your junk email options. If there's certain senders that you want to make sure that you always receive those emails and they don't go into junk, so say I was particularly interested in this blogger's required email, I could add them to my safe senders list as well, and you can go in there and add various different emails so that they're not marked as junk when they come in next time. Okay, so review your junk email options through here as well. Again, it just cuts down on what you're receiving, making sure that you're only receiving the things you need in your inbox. Lovely. Now a couple of other things. Searching. I'm always shocked. I go through life thinking that everybody knows how to search in Outlook, because how could they not? It's so easy. And then I run training sessions, and the first thing I do is I normally ask someone to show me how they run a search in Outlook, and 9 times out of 10 they're not doing it in the most effective way. They're kind of getting the result that they want, but normally people will complain, oh, it's a bit hit and miss, the search feature in Outlook. I do struggle sometimes to find what I'm looking for, and most of the time that's because they're not performing the search correctly. I love the Outlook search. I think it's so useful, and I've never failed to find anything. As long as I haven't deleted it and then removed my deleted items, I've never failed to find anything that I've got stored in Outlook using the search feature. So let's take a closer look at it. Your search is located just above your email list, which is just here. It says search current mailbox. So I'm going to click in my search, and as I click in there, you'll see that I get my search tools appear, the contextual ribbons. And for those of you that are used to using Microsoft products, you'll know that contextual ribbon is one that only appears when it's needed. So when I click out of my search, it disappears. So it only appears when I need it. Now on here, this is where you'll find your search options. What I find most people do is they just click in this box and they just literally type in what it is that they're searching for, which is fine. It will find it a lot of the time. You know, maybe if I type in, let's see, webinar, it will find it. So it's found Outlook webinar. I'm not saying that it's never going to find anything, but it's not the best way of doing it. If I then want to combine it with another search, that's when it starts to become a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to click the cross and show you the foolproof way of searching for things. Click in the inbox, click in the field And then if you look up at your toolbar, you see you have a section called Refine. And this is where you go to refine your search. Okay, so if I'm looking for all emails from, let's do Matilda again. So I'm going to click on the From button, and you can see now it says Sender Name is highlighted. Now as I start to type the name, it's going to do a live search, so I don't need to even press anything. It's going to do a live search. So immediately it's pulled out of there and highlighted the word that I've searched for. I could then combine that. So if Matilda sent me email attachments, I could select Has Attachments. So again, let me show you it on my email inbox because I think I have a lot more emails in there. Let's click in the search box. So I could search for, let's see, what have we got in here? I could search for all attachments, so I could click Has Attachments in there, and that's only going to pull out the things which have attachments. I could combine that with From, and it looks like there's quite a few in there from myself, which is odd, so I could combine that with From Me. Oh, there we go. To pull out just all those emails from Deb Ashby which have attachments. And I could then go even further and start to customize them from when I received them. So today, yesterday, this week, last week, so on and so forth. So lots of different refine options in there. You're going to find that's a lot better than just typing directly into this box. Okay. You've also got your recent searches on this toolbar as well. So if you've run searches recently, it will list them all in there, so you can go back and rerun those searches if you wanted to. I'm in the wrong inbox now, but let me close that search and go back to Katie Jordan. Okay, so that is the best way to run your search, using these refine options, and also making sure that in the scope area you have the correct location for searching selected. So I'm clicked on current mailbox, which is going to search Katie Jordan, her inbox. So I could do, it's going to search everything in that mailbox essentially. If I wanted to search through all mailboxes, so if you're somebody who has multiple mailboxes in your account, you could select all mailboxes just there, or you could limit your search to specific folders or subfolders as well. So scope is really important, and then refining your options down. Okay, foolproof way of finding all of your emails in Outlook, I think anyway. Another thing that's quite useful, if we scroll down, are search folders, and you'll see that at the bottom of your email inbox. So here we have search folders, and this is for searches that you run frequently. So maybe you run the same search in your mailbox over and over again. So instead of coming to search every single time and typing and refining and doing all of those kinds of things, you might want to be able to just click on a button and run that search, and you can do that using search folders. So I'm going to click on search folders, I'm going to right click and do new search folder. And you can then go in and specify. So I maybe want to set up a search folder for all mails from a specific person. So I'm going to say mail from, I'm going to do choose, and I'm just going to switch to Katie's contacts. All mail from my manager again, Chris, like so. Okay, I'm just going to do OK. Again, I could customize that even more if I wanted to, but it just means that when I click on that, you can see here it's now pulled out all email in my inbox from Chris, and there's only one email in there. So I could have that for various different things, and those search folders will stay there. They're permanent. They don't get removed when you close out of Outlook, so they will always be there. So again, it's a one-click stop for running your searches. Okay, all of these things are just to make you more productive, more efficient, faster at what you're doing. Okay. Finally, just to finish up, is just taking a very quick look at some email options. So for this, we're going to actually work within an email. So I'm going to create a new email very quickly. And remember that when you've got a new email open like we have here, we have ribbons inside our new email as well. And those ribbons are different to the ones that you have in your standard mailbox. These ribbons now relate specifically to this individual email. Lots of different things in here. Emails these days look very much like Word, and you can treat them like Word as well. It's a lot more compatible these days than what it used to be. If you're trying to copy tables and things like that from Word into emails, you don't have any problems with formatting or compatibility or anything along those lines. But what I want to take a look at is this options area in here. Options is where you'll find things like voting buttons. So if you ever have to send out something where you want people to vote, that's where you'll find them. If you want to request a delivery receipt or a read receipt, this is where you can find those options in there as well. What you can also do is you can add these options as well. So save sent items. So a lot of people, maybe you're somebody who likes to save every email that you send, but not necessarily just in your sent items folder. Maybe you want to put it in a specific folder. So if this was about Project Alpha, maybe I have a subfolder called Project Alpha Sent Items. So I might want to make sure that whenever I send an email, a copy goes into there. I can do that from here as well if I wanted to, and I can select the folder I want to save it into. The delay delivery option, that's an option which I actually really like, and this is where you can specify a time, a very specific time for your email to be delivered. So this is particularly useful for things like if you're going away on holiday. So maybe you're working on a project and maybe there's a deadline for next Wednesday and maybe a certain email needs to go out on that Wednesday. But what if you're away on holiday? You could create the email in advance, come into options and delay the delivery by selecting do not deliver before and then selecting the day and the time. Now what happens then is you would click send as normal. So once you've set that option, you'd write your email and you would click send, but that email isn't actually going to send now. Okay, what it does is it holds it on the Outlook server until that date and time that you've specified, and then it sends it. Okay, so that is a great way of being able to delay the delivery. And then the final option on here is direct replies to, and the example I always use for this is of maybe a manager and their PA. So sometimes, oh, I hope my Outlook isn't going to crash, there we go. Sometimes a manager will write an email because it needs to come from management. He'll send it out to the entire company, but maybe he doesn't want to have to deal with all of the responses coming back in. Maybe his PA is there to deal with that, so he can redirect the replies to somebody else. Okay, and again that's done through here. So have replies sent to, and then you can go in and just choose from your address book or your global address list or your contacts if you want to, who you want those replies redirected to. So that's another useful little option again of managing your email and making sure email's going to the right person. And very finally, my last little tip is related to automatic replies, or the good old out of office. I always like putting my out of office on because it normally means I'm going on holiday or somewhere exciting, I've got some time off, but let's click on File because this is where you now find your automatic replies. Now, Microsoft changed the name of this. It used to be called out of office and people still refer to it as out of office, but they changed it to automatic replies, and there was a reason for that. And it was that when you have your out of office on, you're not necessarily always out of the office, which is why it's been changed to automatic replies. And what they want to do is try and encourage people to use this option more often. So for example, if you maybe have half a day's training course, so you're not going to be in the office for that, even if it's on site, you might want to put an automatic reply saying that you're not available between these hours. You might want to go as far as to put it on when you're at lunch. You know, it depends how important your job is and how critical it is that people know where and when you are. But the whole point of it is it's not just necessarily for when you're on holiday or, you know, away from the office. You can use it for managing responses when you're maybe caught up on a task or you don't want to be disturbed or something like that. Okay, so your automatic replies is in here, and you have the option also, so you can send automatic replies. And I don't have it in here because I'm not using, this is just my personal Outlook account, but if you're using an enterprise version of Outlook, which a lot of you will be, you have the option of setting 2 out of offices as well. So one for internal recipients of your organization, so everybody who shares your email address, and external, so friends and family, things like that. So you could set 2 different out of offices if you want to. And the second one will appear in a tab just here. As I said, I don't have it because mine's a personal one and you don't get it on personal accounts. Okay. that is pretty much my final tip. I hope you did pick up a few little things in there. I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions at this point before I let you go.
Thanks for that, Deb. We have one question here. Can you assign an email to multiple categories?
Am I muted? Sorry, I didn't know if I was unmuted or not. Yes, you can. So you can see there I've got this email assigned to 2 categories. So it's very simple. You just select your email, go to the Categorize button, and you can select as many categories from here as you want, be that 2, 3, 4, definitely. I don't think there are any other questions, so I will sign off for now. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have an amazing evening. Thank you for listening, and I hope you picked up some tips, and I hope to speak to some of you next time. So I'll hand you back to Mandeep. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, everyone. We hope you will join us again on the next webinar. If you'd like to get a recording of this webinar, please send an email to info@webinarsteam.com. Thank you, everyone.